Hi everyone, my name is Haddy and I'm a journalist and communications specialist. I believe that as Africans, we should be in charge of every narrative coming out of Africa. We have a lot of positive stories to tell and share with the world, and I'm determined to use my platform to make that a reality. This is why I've teamed up with the Fata Network to bring you a brand new show, Stories from the Continent, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Do make sure you join us. There will be lots of fun, informative, and impactful conversation. Hi everybody, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Haddy. Welcome to episode 5 of Stories from the Continent. First of all, I can't believe we're in week 5. I said last week that every time I come on this show, I come really just ready to learn, and I leave taking away so much knowledge, not only from my guests, but from all of you that watch from home and share your thoughts and contribute throughout the show. And I'm sure today will be just as interesting and engaging for you. Also, I want to say thank you to everybody that sends in their suggestions throughout the week. And I know there's been a lot of people kind of sending questions around whether I'm going to only do stories from the Gambia or if I'm going to branch out to the rest of the continent. And the answer is, of course, I will. It is called Stories from the Continent after all. I really just wanted to kind of focus on the Gambia first. It is my country, it is where I'm from. And, I think from here, we will be able to branch out and look at other regions. So joining me on this weekend's conversation is Mr. Modou. He is the founder of Farm Fresh, the first online fruits and vegetable store in the Gambia. Welcome to the show, Mr. Njai. It is such a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Haddy. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Thank you. Obviously the topic of discussion today will be agriculture as a business in the continent. And I want to start by asking you this, Mr. Njai, why farming? In a country like the Gambia, where despite the economy being heavily reliant on agriculture, it is kind of a job that is seen as a, working class role or even lower class role, as some people refer to it. And, you're somebody that is very well educated. You've worked at the UNDP, you've worked at Deloitte in the past. You also worked at Guarantee Trust Bank as the head of their technology department for a number of years. Tell us, why agriculture?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. It also has a very simple answer. This is the foundation of our economy of Africa as well. Agriculture is what keeps the world going. Agriculture is what feeds the world. Agriculture is the foundation of anything that you could see around the world in terms of development. For example, even I'm giving an example like the United States. It's agriculture that builds the economy of the United States. And with agriculture, especially in the Gambian context, we have arable land, we have very fertile soil, and it's a no-brainer, I would say. Agriculture is very much important in terms of developing the economy of a country. You have to feed your country in order to develop. That's the number one basic need for any country. The people have to be fed. If they're not fed, then you have starvation, then you have strife, you have civil unrest and all sorts of things. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, I read your interview as well in TechPoint with TechPoint Africa, as well as The Guardian, which is a British paper. You're also featured in SN Brussels in Flight magazine, where you kind of talked about launching your company back in 2014. 6 years on now, how have things progressed?
I would say Alhamdulillah. That is to say, thanks to God, things
Mm-hmm.
have been progressing and continue to progress smoothly. Slowly but surely, we have really overcome a lot of hurdles along the way. As a startup, it's not really easy to run a company in the Gambia, especially without proper financing and stuff like that. But I would say that we've come a long way, and we have covered over the past 6 years, and I'm sure we will delve into those details as we go along in this interview.
Mhm. Mhm. And before we kind of go into the nitty gritty of things, Mr. Njai, I've seen this term coined around a lot, modern agriculture. Tell us what
Yeah.
exactly it is and how it's different from traditional agriculture as we know it.
Yes. First of all, let me just make a disclaimer first. That is to say that I am not an agriculture expert. I did not study agriculture. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
claiming to be an expert or a knowledge expert in this area. I am just
Mm-hmm.
sharing the little experience, the little knowledge that I've acquired over the years. I do have a passion, a very strong passion for agriculture. My late father was an agriculturist. He had a master's in agriculture, and he played a very pivotal role in the agricultural development of the country. That said, I would say that modern agriculture basically leverages on technology so that uh, farmers or agripreneurs can scale their agricultural business and take it to the next level, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to traditional farming, which
Mm-hmm.
really limits the farmer in terms of expansion, in terms of having access to tools. Uh, as you know, the traditional farmers would use mundane tools, very difficult conditions, working conditions. They don't have a tractor. They don't have proper machinery to process their produce. So it takes longer. Everything takes longer, which means low productivity. But with modern day agriculture, with a little farming tool, with a little technology, the technology doesn't even have to be sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the example of India. India um, is one of the countries that comes up with very innovative solutions,
Mm-hmm.
technology solutions to solve problems in agriculture, like mechanization, in terms of solar energy, and so many other things that are not even expensive, but it's all
Mm-hmm.
about innovation and finding new ways of doing things better, faster, and more efficient
Mm-hmm.
to have a better result.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
talking about agriculture in Africa, this is something to, I know you've kind of alluded to it in your introduction a little bit, but I mean, in Africa, we have one, the youngest population in the world. We have land that is fertile, as you said. We have sun almost all year round, yet most of what we eat is imported. We're spending, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this figure, 35 billion dollars a year to import food. And I just want you to tell us why is this, when we can really just produce it on our own soils.
You've said it all. It's really, this is the hard facts. That is to say that we're importing more than exporting.
Mm-hmm.
And it really has to do with the policy of the country. We have to look at the policy because the agricultural policy does not promote the the growing or they promote entrepreneurs to get into agriculture, if they are not, if we don't have enough incentives
Mm-hmm.
to entice people to get into agriculture, let's put it this way: agriculture has to be made. You have to make it look sexy. That is to
Mm-hmm.
say, it has to be attractive.
Mm-hmm.
People have often looked down on agriculture. I would say just barely, probably 10, 15 years ago, a lot of people would just laugh at you if you say that you're a farmer.
Yes.
Farming has always been associated with poverty in agriculture. So it is also to do with the mindset of the people. People have to be educated to know that they can actually become wealthy, very wealthy actually, in terms of getting into agriculture and producing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the government also has a very important role to play in
Mm-hmm.
this uh, in this um, in this aspect. but also the private sector. I will definitely want to encourage the private sector to get into commercial farming. That is to say,
Mhm,
producing at a large scale, so that we can feed ourselves. I always say that we have to first venture or try to feed ourselves before even thinking of exporting. I see a lot of countries would just start exporting, but if you look at the detail, if you look at the realities on the ground for that particular country, uh, they're not even feeding their population. They're not meeting the local demand.
mhm,
So it is not impossible for us to feed ourselves because we have fertile land. Gambia is very small, but the amount of fertile land that is available for agriculture is actually massive. We
mhm,
can feed the Gambia, we can feed ourselves, and we can feed other countries even within the sub-region.
mhm.
So mindset is part of it, but certainly government policies have to change to encourage people to get into agriculture. So that, I mean, there should be incentives. This is an issue for a lot of people who want to get into agriculture. They find it very difficult to acquire land. It's very expensive in the Gambia, and so you have a lot of
Mhm.
reserve land. You have a lot of real estate companies sprouting all over the place, uncontrollable,
Yeah.
and selling land helter skelter. So there needs to be control mechanism, and government has to take a deliberate action in terms of coming up with a policy that would say, you know what, um, 30% or 50% of this arable land is reserved for anyone who wants to get into agriculture, and we're
Mhm,
going to waive whatever taxes you have to pay. We're going to provide you with seeds. We'll probably even link you up with fertilizer producers of natural fertilizers, things
mhm.
of that nature.
Yeah.
But there's also the need to get into, I mean, educating the population in general
Mhm,
about uh, the importance of farming and how lucrative it can be.
mhm.
It is always seen as a poor man's work, but it
Yes.
can actually be quite rewarding.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now, talking about your point now about getting government involved and also making the right policies, you know, on that same point, we know that more than 50 million African children suffer from malnutrition. Again, all while we have, you know, about 65% of the world's uncultivated land, you know, so not only, like you said, mun nañoo feed suñ boppa, but we can feed other people in the region as well. So would
Yeah.
you say, you know, governments are putting enough money and support behind agriculture?
Yes, you know what's interesting in the case of the Gambia? I don't have the exact statistics, but since in the 1970s, when we've been receiving aid, agricultural aid, it's in the millions and millions of dollars that have been invested in the Gambia to promote agriculture. But sorry, I'm very sorry to say that these millions and millions of dollars, we can't show much for it. We can't really say that this is the impact that it has created. So we need to go back to the drawing board and look at the policies that we've created and see if we can make some amendments to these policies to make it more adaptable in our situation.
Mhm,
Sometimes what we do in Africa or in many places is copy and paste. Oh, this is
mhm,
the policy that this country is using, so we're going to use it. It may not work for you. What's good for the goose may not necessarily be good for the gander. So
mhm,
we really need to look inwards, come up with our own solution, homegrown solutions, and also encourage homegrown knowledge experts.
mhm.
We often run to other countries, especially Europe
Yes.
and other countries, because we feel like they're better, they know better, they have experts.
Mhm,
You have consultants who will be flown into the country,
mhm,
who are paid thousands and thousands of dollars,
mhm,
and at the end of the day, we don't see anything for it. So
mhm.
why don't we start nurturing ourselves and looking inwards, promoting, giving opportunities to Gambian experts.
Mhm,
There are lots of Gambians who've studied agriculture. So
mhm,
why can't these people be at the helm in terms of decision making, in terms of implementing the right policies? So we need technocrats. who can get the job done.
mhm. Ms. Njai, when we had Modou on the show last week and we talked about youth unemployment, I spoke to the Ministry of Youth and they said one of the ways that they're trying to get more young, one of the solutions that they're trying to implement is getting more young people into agriculture. You know, as somebody who works in that sector, are you seeing any signs of improvement?
Yes, I would say so. I would say that I've observed that, I mean, over the past 7 years that I've been actively engaged in agriculture with my company Farm Fresh, I have
Mm-hmm,
seen a remarkable improvement in terms of young entrepreneurs who are getting into the business of agriculture, which is very broad: farming, horticulture, animal husbandry, you name it.
mm-hmm,
Especially poultry. Poultry
mm-hmm,
has been has seen the biggest improvement actually. So I would say that there's been a lot of improvement in this regard,
mm-hmm,
but there's also a lot of room for improvement, for further improvement.
mm-hmm,
We still have a long way to go.
mm-hmm. Okay, you know, this, like many other topics that I have discussed on the show, is also new for me, and I had to do a lot of research. And you know, through my research, I see many heads of state talk about agriculture, and when they do, the example that they always use is Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. And you know, it's a leading economy in the West African region as well as the continent as a whole. And cocoa production is essential to the country and its economy. And I think we've also seen a reduction in poverty in that country, in Cote d'Ivoire. So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my eyes, there seems to be a link between economic growth through agriculture and then also a reduction in poverty, you know. And I'm just going to leave you to expand on that example of Cote d'Ivoire. I'm sure again it's, you know, it's an example you're familiar with.
Yes, you said it. Sorry that I keep repeating myself, but it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The vast majority of Gambians
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, who are employed actually in the agricultural sector, and these are women, even in the Gambia, and I'm sure it's the same in Cote d'Ivoire.
Mm-hmm.
We have the land, and all they need is um, a little bit of support, and things will turn around.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that we should keep on encouraging, especially the youths, to get into I mean, to get into agriculture. You've seen the example of Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is much bigger than the Gambia,
Mm-hmm.
so I see no reason why we can't achieve a similar feat.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to achieve that
Mm-hmm.
with the right policies, with the right type of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I would also use the example of
Mm-hmm.
Rwanda. I've been to Rwanda 2 times. I've actually registered Farm Fresh in Rwanda, and what I saw was really impressive. Um, Discipline is also very important in terms of nation building, in terms of achieving the objectives of the country. That is to say, with after all is said and done, if all the resources have been provided and everything has been done by the government, it is now upon us. It is left to us to take up the challenge. But with that, we also have to be disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remain focused. We have to also understand that it's not like an overnight success. You don't just plow your seeds today and expect to harvest tomorrow. Uh, and uh, I have to say that also a lot of entrepreneurs are always in a rush to make their first million dollar seed. It doesn't happen like that in agriculture. There's a lot of effort, sweat, and toil. You really have to persevere, and you have to know that your focus is not your focus should not be getting wealthy. Your focus rather should be to end poverty, to reduce poverty. Even if you can't end it, you can play a part in terms of reducing poverty. And this is where Farm Fresh comes in, aggregator or partner or I mean, we're part of the agricultural value chain in the Gambia in terms of providing access to markets. Farmers often find it very difficult to sell their produce.
Mm-hmm.
If they are not able to sell their produce and the produce goes to waste or
Mm-hmm.
gets wasted, it means less revenue for them. It means losses for them. It means poverty for them. But
Mm-hmm.
if we are able to bridge this gap in terms of production and marketing and selling, it
Mm-hmm.
means we're helping them to improve on their livelihoods in terms of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to gain more revenue, make more sales on a weekly basis, which also leads to poverty reduction. They're able to open savings account. They're able to pay the school fees of their children and whatever bills they may have. They can also invest in other ventures as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the issues that we have also in Gambia or in Africa in general is we see farming as a survival mechanism. That is to say, we don't have a choice. This is what we have. It's hand to mouth. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
need to move away from that and get into what we call commercial farming and
Mm-hmm.
seeing farming as a business,
Mm-hmm.
not a last resort, but
Yes.
seeing it as a proper business. As I have an IT company, just as people have IT companies, people have construction companies, people have electron engineering companies,
Mm-hmm.
civil airlines, airplanes. It's the same way. Agriculture is no different. It is also a business. So once people have this mindset that this is a business that can transform my life, that can transform the lives of my community, the lives of my country, I mean the people in my country, I think we'll start seeing changes. So it is a process, but it has to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we will get there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
going to take a little bit of time, but we'll certainly get there.
Mm-hmm. And
Mm.
Mr. Njai, I want you to, if you can, expand on that point about changing mindsets, because you've kind of already established, that this is what moves most countries forward. But in Africa, we seem to have this mindset where we are so set on white collar and office jobs. And, it's interesting because here in the UK, it is middle class families and those that are well off that kind of grow what they eat, and have allotments
Yeah.
and feed themselves. So why do you think it is that we have such opposing views of what agriculture is?
Well, there are a couple of factors or reasons. One of the reasons I believe is that
Mm-hmm.
it has to do with the media. That is to say, well, the U.S., the U.K., and Europe, they do a very good job in terms of promoting their products,
Mm-hmm.
which we see on TV. You see a lot of advertisements, um, non-stop advertisements on processed food, American products.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you have the Coca-Cola. Okay, let me not mention names, but a lot of millions of dollars have been invested in terms of marketing, and these products have been with us for eons,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, this is the way to go. This is good food. They're not really, people are not educated in terms of the importance of eating healthy, in terms of eating your vegetables, in terms of eating fresh fruits.
Mm-hmm.
And people probably don't know the history, but in the United States, things have changed now, but agriculture was the backbone of the economy of the United States, let's say about 400 years ago when you had slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's agriculture that built the economy of the United States. So
Very
that
true.
gives
Mm-hmm.
you enough example. The future is the current, is the way to go. You can go without wearing a new pair of shoes or new pair of clothes or a hat or watch, but you really can't go without eating.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't eat, then I'm sorry, you might not make it. So the food business, it's a no-brainer. I mean, people have to eat, so people have to produce,
Mm-hmm.
so that people have to eat. So it's a chain, it's a cycle.
Yes.
So this type of business, it's almost guaranteed. I mean, of course, there are a lot of risks involved in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But every business has risk. Even other businesses that are not agriculture related, they also come with their
Mm-hmm.
risk. But I believe that the returns in terms of doing business in agriculture are far greater or higher than in other areas. From
Mm-hmm.
my, I mean, that's my personal perspective.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
let's look at when we look at what you said about production, and then we look at manufacturing, and let's take cocoa as an example. The continent is known for producing this, and but when we look at the reality, the best chocolates in the world are called Belgian or Swiss
Mm.
chocolates. And,
Yeah.
so we export the cocoa, but we don't make chocolate, the same way we
Hmm.
export cotton, for instance, but we don't make the fabrics. How
Exactly.
do we take advantage of our capabilities, or maybe resources is the right word, so we don't only export, but we're manufacturing?
That's a very important question. What we call value addition is very
Hmm.
important. Africa has always been known as a key exporter of raw materials,
Yes.
and often, I mean, to China, to the United States, to Europe, and these raw materials are processed, as you rightly stated, and sent back to us. And of course, at a premium, we pay a premium for them.
Hmm.
So I have seen efforts that have been made in terms of turning this around in countries like Ghana. In Ghana, they now produce their own chocolate. Also in Ivory Coast, uh, basically, when you add value
Hmm.
to a product, it means that your income will go up automatically. I mean, if the raw material is costing $5 and you process it and increase the shelf life of this product to, let's say, 6 months or a year, obviously you can easily sell this product for $100, right? So value addition is the development of agriculture in the country. And I'll give an example. In the Gambia, one of the problems that we have is wastage of food, wastage of fruits, of veggies. For example, during the watermelon season in the Gambia, there's an abundance of watermelon all over the country, and it's very
Yes.
cheap.
Mhm.
But there's also a lot of wastage. People need to start thinking of innovative ways of converting some of these produce that are going to waste into value-added products, improving their shelf lives. I've seen efforts being made by some companies in the Gambia. There's a company called Tropingo, and what they're doing is they're drying the mangoes. So you have dried mangoes. We have a lot of wastage in mango, but now that you have dried mangoes, the dried mangoes can last for at least 6 months,
Mhm.
could be even longer. So, and then they bring a much greater return than just selling fresh mangoes. So the government, let me just, I'm not, I'm mentioning the government, but they're not the only players. But the
Mhm.
private sector, especially businessmen, need to invest or think of investing in terms of manufacturing plants that would add value to the produce that are being grown here, like oranges. Why can't we have a jam factory, tomato jam? Why can't we have mango jam, kabad jam, watermelon jam?
Mhm.
Why can't we have potato chips, sweet potato chips,
Mhm.
um, mixed vegetable in a can, you
Mhm.
know, at a large scale? I'm not saying, yes, there are a couple of small startups that are doing their bit, but I'm talking of at a commercial level, at a national level, so that this will really have a greater impact.
Mhm.
So I have to buttress on this point that manufacturing and value addition it's a key component in terms of um, growing the agricultural economy.
Mhm.
I cannot say it enough. It's very, very, very important.
Mhm.
The marketing is very important, but value addition is also important. Proper storage facilities. Farmers need to have access to storage facilities to store their produce so that
Mhm.
they won't go to waste.
Mhm.
Once we start reducing waste, trust me, the amount of food that is wasted.
Mhm,
can actually feed the entire country. I can tell you that for free. If
mhm,
we are able to preserve at least 30 to 40% of the waste, of the current food waste, I see no reason why we should even start thinking of importing.
mhm, mhm. I mean,
Yeah,
I would personally definitely be all up for the kaba jam that you mentioned. Uh, but Mr. Njai, do you predict a
there you
future?
go.
Do you predict a future for the Gambia where we are actually growing what we eat and appreciating, and I think this is a key point, actually appreciating agriculture the way we should?
Yes, I see a future. I am an optimist.
Hmm.
Naturally, by default, I'm always optimistic about the future.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think we have a long way to go, but I still believe that there's a will. The will is there for us to transform our economy
Hmm.
and start eating what we grow and growing what we eat. The
Hmm.
momentum, has proving people are getting more and more aware. There are lots of, I'm not exaggerating, but
Hmm.
if I tell you the amount of Gambians that I interact with on the internet, on social media, Gambians living in Norway, in Europe, in the US,
Hmm.
who I'm not I'm not bragging or anything, but who actually told me that through my initiative, Farm Fresh,
Hmm.
seeing what we've done and achieved, they got inspired and started investing in agriculture,
Hmm.
and they're already seeing returns.
Hmm.
Some of these people I've never met in person, but they just felt inspired by the work that we do, and now they're doing very well. They have their farms. You'll notice there's a lot of activity going on. There
Yeah.
are companies doing rice production,
Hmm.
Modou farms, and we had another one, Mira Farms, one of the beneficiaries of Money Farm. We
Hmm.
provided investment for them,
Hmm.
about $250,000,
Hmm.
and this was invested by a Gambian living in the diaspora,
Hmm.
a woman, a young woman, a
Hmm.
successful woman.
Hmm.
So this is what gives me hope. We have a lot of success stories. So I would say that in general, there is hope, and we should be able to achieve it. You are what you think. You are what you eat.
Hmm.
And if you can believe it, if you can think it, you can achieve it.
Definitely. Definitely. So, talk to me then about starting a business in agriculture because, since we posted this, there's been many people that have said, well, I want to go into agriculture since, it's the way to be a millionaire or a billionaire in the continent. Talk to us, talk to me and to everybody watching in steps about how and what it takes to start a business in agriculture.
First and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
passion. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to get into anything, you must have the passion for it. Uh, your the thing that motivates you should not be the amount of money that others are making in
Mm-hmm.
agriculture. That is a wrong concept. It's a wrong mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What you should have is a passion to say that, wow, if I get into agriculture, I'm going to be able to contribute towards the development of my economy. I will be able to contribute towards the reduction of poverty in my country.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that would like bring out the butterflies in your stomach, and you would say, wow, I have to do something. I know I can create impact. I know I can help in terms of reducing poverty. Obviously, at the end of the day, um, the money will follow. The money will definitely come, but
Yeah.
it should not be your main source of motivation. You must have
Mm-hmm.
that passion, and you must also be a risk taker.
Mm-hmm.
You must be able to take calculated risk. Agriculture can also be a risky business, but it's highly rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be able to draw that line and to have that balance between taking risk and getting good returns.
Mm-hmm.
You need to also do your market research and know about the product that you want to get into. Is it suitable for your country? Can it grow? Do you have a ready market in terms of buyers? Who's going to buy your product? So there's a lot of research that needs to be done before you really venture into any form of agriculture. Potential, and also you do your SWOT analysis, your strengths, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses, and existing competitors in the market,
Mm-hmm.
and come up with your business model canvas that would really outline so as I say, do a lot of research
Mm-hmm.
and start small, do some trials, test runs here and
Mm-hmm.
there, and see how it goes. But do not hesitate. But passion is very important. Don't just get into it because others are doing it. If you must have that passion for it, and that's what drives us as Farm Fresh. We have the passion. It's not about the money. It's the passion that has kept us going,
Mm-hmm.
that has kept us alive as a company over the past 6 to 7 years.
Very true, because everybody's journey is different. But
Yeah.
Mr. Ndure, what about access to funding? This seems to be a challenge that is faced by many. What was your own experience in securing funding?
Okay, I had challenges in terms of, I was a
Mm-hmm.
banker. I worked for a bank prior to venturing into Farm Fresh. But I would tell you that despite that, having that background and having those what they call connections,
Connections.
having access to finance was definitely challenging. Challenging in the sense that yes, the opportunity was there. There was the possibility of acquiring credit, but then the interest rates were just ridiculous. For example, if a microfinance company is charging you about 30%, 31, 32% interest rate on a credit loan of 200,000 or $300,000, by the time you finish paying off this debt, you'll be bankrupt. You'll not be left with anything. It's the bank or the microfinance company that's going to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So access to finance is a key hindrance in terms of promoting agriculture and getting people to get into venture into agriculture. And this is what motivated me or motivated us to
Mm-hmm.
set up my other startup company, which is called Money Farm,
Mm-hmm.
which is an agri-tech crowdfunding platform that links or match agropreneurs or farmers with investors from the diaspora, especially Gambians, to help them scale their farming business.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had success stories in this venture. We've had challenges, but we also have had success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of red tape in terms of having access to finance. They will ask you for collateral, title deed,
Mm-hmm.
for a very small amount. It could even be $50,000, $100,000, and the
Mm-hmm.
bank would ask you for a lot of documents.
Mm-hmm.
Rightly so, as a former bank, I know the rationale behind it because they're also trying to safeguard uh, the funds, the funds that were provided by the depositors.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is there's also a high rate of defaults,
Mm-hmm.
people who've accessed funds and never had a chance or never were never able to pay back the funds for either genuine reasons or not so genuine reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what led a lot of the financial institutions to probably take a back seat and say, no, we're not providing access to finance
Mm-hmm.
because of the bad experience that they've had over the years in terms of the high rate of defaults.
Mm-hmm.
So Money Farm is stepping in. We are not a competitor, but we're just playing our part in the value chain.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not saying that it's extremely easy to get funding through us, but
Mm-hmm.
we will definitely reduce the amount of bottlenecks and red tapes that you have to go through in order
Mm-hmm.
to get access to funds from an investor. But we also carry out our own due diligence. At the end of the day, the investor needs to get his or her money back. That's the bottom line. So I think government has to review the policies in terms of the interest rates, maybe the central bank,
Mm-hmm.
especially in terms of now that we are in the COVID pandemic, during this pandemic. Probably interest rates on loans can be frozen, can be suspended for a period of time. These are all ingredients, or these are all things that can really help businesses to survive, to keep themselves afloat so that they won't close down.
Mhm. Mhm. And now let's talk about your experience in IT and technology, and use that experience in farming and agriculture. You have over 20 years of experience in IT management. And I'm sure when you started, not many people had access to the internet. And now we're at a point where, almost three-quarter of the population are connected to some form of communication and technology. What can technology do for agriculture in the Gambia as well as in Africa?
Thank you very much. That's a very, very important question.
Hmm.
Uh, Technology is a key driver for economic growth in any country,
Hmm.
um, whether it's agriculture, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education. We've seen it.
Yes.
Uh, and I'm using my experience using the two platforms that I set up, that is Farm Fresh and Money Farm,
Hmm.
basically leveraging on my technological background.
Hmm.
Over the past 22 years, we've set up this e-commerce platform, which um, allows farmers to sell their produce on our platform, and anyone, anyone around the world, Gambians or non-Gambians, can go onto the platform and shop in real time, pay online, and we deliver the products. So this is not how do I put it? It's not something very basic. It's actually very transformative. It has actually transformed lives, and it has had a positive impact in the lives of people in the Gambia. The same goes with Money Farm as well. We're leveraging on technology to crowdfund, funding
Hmm.
for farmers to access finance. And technology is very, very broad. You can have applications that can be set up so that farmers can know about the market prices in their village or in their communities, so that they will not be um, cheated by middlemen. So if they are able to know the prevailing market prices, it means they can sell at a fair price, fair trade. Technology can help in that. Technology can also help in terms of predicting the weather patterns so that farmers would know when to plow, when to harvest, and things of that nature. There are so many facets or areas
Yeah.
where technology can intervene in agriculture. We'll spend probably the next 1 hour talking about them, but I can safely say that it is a key driver, it is a key component, and we need to embrace it. If we really want to step up to the game countries that are doing well in agriculture, we need technology, be it electronic technology. We've seen it in nations like Israel, in nations like India, China. It's technology that has transformed the economies, especially in terms of agriculture,
Hmm.
including the United States as well,
Yeah.
and Europe.
Hmm. So
So,
as well as
mm,
technology, I think you'd agree that we also need the right infrastructure. We need also energy or electricity. A strong
yeah.
infrastructure and access to electricity is needed to get your products to market. There's millions of people in Africa still without electricity. If you don't have electric in farming, you're stuck really. Can you talk to us about how this affects you and your work?
Oh yes, it affects us
Mm.
tremendously. Without electricity or energy, really, you can't do much. You can't charge your mobile phone. You can't charge your laptop. You can't go online. But anyway, that's like a luxury anyway. But without electricity, you can't really get into um, large scale manufacturing in
Mhm,
terms of value addition, processing of food products,
mhm,
converting the raw materials into finished goods or value added goods.
mhm,
if you set up these assembly plant, sorry, if you set up these manufacturing plants, processing
Mm-hmm.
fruits, veggies, and you don't have a steady energy
Mm-hmm.
supply,
Mm-hmm.
everything is going to go downhill. So it is extremely paramount that the government invests in the energy sector and sees it as a top priority in
Mm-hmm.
terms of uplifting its people out of poverty. Energy is extremely important, and we have all types of energy supplies. It could be the power grid. You have the solar, you have the wind. We have all of that. We have sunshine throughout, and we've seen nations. Again, I always use examples like China and Israel making good use of technology in terms of using different forms of energy. It doesn't have to be coal. It can be wind. It can be solar. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we can do it, but it's really important. Without energy, you can't really do anything.
There's not much you can do. Yeah. Okay, Miss Sinjai, let us move to the last part of the show then, and then that is where I read out the questions that were asked before the show. So the first question, hello.
You can't. And as a business as well, without yes, I'm getting you.
Sorry, I
Hello.
think we lost you there for a minute.
Okay. Yes, you said there's a question. What's the first question?
Yes, so we're going to move on to the questions now that we've received from people that watched the show. So, first question from Ali Cisse, and it's more of a statement than a question. It says the government should reduce the importation of chicken legs so Gambian farmers can see themselves being successful in the business. He says most poultry farmers raise their chickens and feed them organically and cannot sell it because people are more likely to buy frozen chicken legs. So, what is your reaction? What do you say to this?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Um, the thing is, these chicken legs are often subsidized by countries that export these items to here to the Gambia. So they're extremely cheap. So the manufacturers or the producers of these chicken legs often get subsidies. Let's say if it is from the United States, the U.S. government would have subsidized the cost of the chicken leg. So if the chicken leg was supposed to cost $10, the U.S. government would probably pay $8, and then it ends up costing $2, and it makes it very difficult for local producers to compete against that. So yes, I would definitely encourage the government to look into banning chicken legs, but then there must also be a clear strategy. We need to have enough data to know that if the chicken legs are stopped, can we meet the demand?
Mm-hmm.
What is the current capacity of poultry farmers? Can they meet the import demand? Can they match it?
Mm-hmm.
If we do research and confirm that the current local production or matches or can surpass the imported products,
Mm-hmm.
then it's a no-brainer. Then we can definitely almost automatically ban some of these products. But unless we have the data, we might be rushing. I'm all in for it, but
Yeah.
I just believe in having data, proper data, in order to make informed decisions. Yeah.
Mhm. I agree with you, and I think even data is obviously very important. And I think even before that, you kind of said earlier that Gambia is a very small country, and we are able to feed ourselves. So again, it goes back to everything we've discussed about getting people into agriculture, funding as well. And if we have that, if we have more people, surely we can import, sorry, less.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Second question says the vegetable you sell, how affordable it is it? And I think this is a good question because when I was on holiday in last time I was on holiday in the Gambia, I went to Turntable, I believe it is, and to to buy bell peppers, and it was just so expensive. It was something ridiculous,
Yeah,
like 75 or $100 each.
yeah,
Why is it so expensive when you can, grow it in your own garden? Also that, but also,
yeah.
that person's question about how affordable are your vegetables?
Yes, the good news is with Farm Fresh,
Hmm.
we're working with farmers.
Hmm.
We partner with farmers, so we go directly to the farms
Hmm.
and we negotiate what we call fair prices. We don't
Hmm.
take advantage over them, but we buy in bulk. In
Hmm.
that way, we are able to get good discounts. So we don't go through middlemen.
Hmm.
This is why our products are affordable,
Hmm.
especially for bulk orders. If you're ordering 100 kilos or 50 kilos worth of cucumbers or tomatoes or green pepper or bell pepper,
Hmm.
rest assured that the price will be far cheaper than the market price if you go to traffic lights or Serekunda markets.
Hmm.
The other reality is that a lot of our vegetables are still being imported from Senegal and other African countries.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of encouraging people to keep on getting into agriculture and
Hmm.
also to diversify in terms of the number of vegetables that they grow. We tend to
Hmm.
grow the same vegetables, so there needs to be diversity in this. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay. Third question says, what are some of the major constraints that you face? Are you there,
Yeah,
Mr. Ndure?
you mentioned it earlier. That's energy,
Hmm.
energy supply. Sometimes internet connection. The internet is bad. We really can't do much. We can't work.
Hmm.
And electricity is also a big hindrance. It's a big problem.
Hmm.
Currently, we're having a lot of power cuts, and it's really affecting our business. We have
Hmm.
invested in deep freezers, cold rooms, and things of that nature. And without a proper power supply, it's really very much that we would love to have clients such as hotels to
Hmm.
embrace our company in terms of buying our produce at fair prices.
Hmm.
What happens most of the time is the hotels would play a game,
Hmm.
uh, like between suppliers. They would say, "Oh, this supplier is giving us this product at $100. Uh,
Mm.
you should match it, or we can't buy it from you."
Yes.
Not taking into account your cost of production. Cost of
Hmm.
production can vary from supplier to supplier, and
Hmm.
sometimes they would tell you that, well, it's going to take about 30 to 60 days before we can pay you because you
Hmm.
have to give it to them on credit. This
Hmm.
ties down your cash flow, and these are some of the constraints. As a small company, you can't afford to go without cash. You can't afford to give credit to hotels, big hotels, for 60 days.
Hmm.
You can't. So these are some of the constraints, as well as so many others.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, final question from Mariam Jabi. Silla, hello, sister. She says, what is your advice for agro entrepreneurs who want to build a network of international buyers?
Interesting question. Agro entrepreneurs who want to build a network of international buyers.
Hmm.
I think it's a very good initiative. That is to say, coming together as a team rather than working in silos. If we come together as a network, we should all be able to benefit,
Hmm.
and we should all be able to tap into the wider market, the export market. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, Gambians work in silos, businesses, due to bad experiences, partnerships hardly work.
Hmm.
I mean, very sad to say. But
Hmm.
if we're able to work together as a team, as a network, as she said,
Hmm.
I think we can have a bigger impact.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Njai. It sounds like, to kind of sum up, it sounds like it's a very interesting time for agriculture, but I think it's also fair to say that, we still have a long way to go before Africa not only realizes its potential in agriculture, but actually uses it to really transform the continent, because there is huge potential there.
Yes, absolutely. As I always say, I'm an optimist. I'll remain an optimist, and
Me too.
inshallah, we will overcome all our challenges.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Mr. Njai. I'm definitely visiting the store when I'm next in the Gambia. But until then, thank you so much for your time. It has been my pleasure. And also, thank you to everybody for watching. And I'll see you next Saturday. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you. All the best. Bye.
Bye. Hi everyone, my name is Haddy and I'm a journalist and communications specialist. I believe that as Africans, we should be in charge of every narrative coming out of Africa. We have a lot of positive stories to tell and share with the world, and I'm determined to use my platform to make that a reality. This is why I teamed up with the Fata Network to bring you a brand new show, Stories from the Continent, every Saturday at 4 p.m. Do make sure you join us. There will be lots of fun, informative, and impactful conversation.